The Grossmont-Cuyamaca Community College District Governing Board Workshop and regular meeting for May 20th, 2025 is now called to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll ask our student trustee from Cuyamaca College, Manuel Juarez Lopez, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. I am now going to turn the mic over to Chancellor Nault.
Yes, good evening, everyone. We have a very exciting presentation this evening about a new program in AI, in case you haven't heard about AI, a new program at Grossmont College. So I'd like to introduce President Wisenhunt, who will introduce the team and start us off.
Thank you, Chancellor Nault. Good afternoon, Chancellor Nault and the Board of Trustees and our colleagues. Thank you for your continued leadership and support of Grossmont College and our shared commitment to prepare students for courses of study that meet the ever-changing needs of the community. Because of your commitment to innovation and equity, we're proud to bring forward an exciting update on our new applied artificial intelligence programs. As you know, AI is rapidly transforming the workforce, and Grossmont is meeting this challenge to ensure East County students are prepared, not just to participate in the future, but to be leaders in it. I want to now introduce our very own Interim Vice President of Academic Affairs, Agustin Albarran, who will be introducing the incredible team who is leading the charge on our campus. In advance, thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, President Wisenhunt. Good afternoon, members of the Governing Board, Chancellor Nault, President Robinson, President Wisenhunt, and esteemed colleagues. My name is Agustin Albarran, and I serve as the Interim Vice President for Academic Affairs at Grossmont College. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today briefly with a few introductory remarks. As our district continues to lead in preparation for students for their future, Grossmont's CTE-led presentation this afternoon will highlight one of the most transformative areas of innovation in education and industry, artificial intelligence, AI. In a moment, you will get a comprehensive look at the development of our AI initiative from the area leads, sitting here to my right, who helped shape it, to the core concepts of intelligence and AI, and on its practical applications in the classroom and in the workforce. You will hear how NVIDIA has supported initiatives at Grossmont College along with industry-recognized certifications are helping our students gain a competitive edge in a rapidly evolving job market. So, without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce to you the CTE Workforce Development Dean for Grossmont College, Dr. Javier Ayala, and Grossmont CSIS Professor Philip Bell, who will guide us through this exciting journey and share the powerful impact that AI is already having at Grossmont College and throughout the district. Thank you. Dr. Ayala.
Okay, can you hear me? Thank you so much for the introduction, Chancellor Nault. Thank you for the invitation, Board President Justison and board members and student trustees. We're very excited to share the progress on our program. I know that last month in April you approved the curriculum, but this has been a work in progress for the last 2.5 years. I don't know if you remember what happened in November 2022. ChatGPT came out, so that really caused a lot of questions to come up around artificial intelligence and made us present. So today we're sharing our roadmap, our progress that led to you approving the curriculum that was submitted in terms of the paperwork last semester. And I know today you have some curriculum that you're also approving related to AI to make it up to date in terms of some of the requirements that are submitted to the state. So as mentioned today, we're talking about the new academic program in applied artificial intelligence and the partnership with NVIDIA. So I am Dr. Javier Ayala, I'm the dean, and Philip Bell can come up here, introduce yourself.
Philip Bell, new tenure track in computer science, working on these new degrees.
And so we also have a co-presenter. So we have Sandy, our own artificial intelligence AI that's been customized to respond to the curriculum. So when you hear about AI, often what comes up is guardrails. So the guardrails for Sandy are really the curriculum that's been put together. So we'd like Sandy to also introduce herself, and then we'll go directly into the presentation. So Sandy, please introduce yourself in English and Spanish to the board.
Of course. English. Good afternoon, board members. My name is Sandy, and I'm Grossmont College's AI Curriculum Assistant. I'm here to support your discussions and provide helpful information about our new Applied Artificial Intelligence program launching in fall 2025. Spanish. Buenas tardes, miembros de la Junta. Mi nombre es Sandy y soy la asistente curricular de inteligencia artificial del Colegio Grossmont. Estoy aquí para apoyar sus discusiones y brindar información útil sobre nuestro nuevo programa de inteligencia artificial aplicada que comenzará en el otoño de 2025.
So I can attest that Sandy got her Spanish very well. That is my first language. And we could have asked it to introduce itself in Arabic, whatever language you can imagine. Again, this is the beauty of AI being able to do something like this. So it's phenomenal. Sandy, you'll be joining us throughout the presentation. We'll call on Sandy to expand on some concepts and share additional information. So what I want to share next is the road to where that got us to where we are right now. So I'll make this a little larger. Okay, see if I can see the icon. Okay, so in terms of the roadmap, so we understand you approved the program in April, but again, going back, this is a 2.5-year project that's going to be available to our students in fall of 2025. So Philip Bell will come up here and kind of introduce his work as a faculty lead around the program, and I'll chime in terms of the roadmap that led us to where we are.
Yeah, so right after I was selected for tenure track, Javier said, "Do you want to work on a project?" I was like, "Yes." And I ended up building out an AI associates in short order. We looked at market research. I combed over hundreds of job applications and job postings myself, not using AI, and really tried to hone in on how do we build a program that meets multiple needs, multiple different kinds of students, and really thinking about, as someone who's been in industry, how quickly this stuff changes, and ensuring that once someone commits to us for 2 years, optimistically, I know a lot of my students can't always finish their programs in the 2-year timeline. How do I ensure that what they take and the time they dedicate to us is actually rewarding to them, and that 12 months into it, they don't become irrelevant? So that was the focus.
So when it comes to hiring CTE faculty, one part that I look at as a dean is what's going to be your signature. So in this case, Philip Bell stepped up to the call to action, and his signature was artificial intelligence. We've hired tenure track professors. Some of them has been cybersecurity, et cetera. So CTE, because a big part in hiring CTE faculty is what they bring from industry. So there's that connection with the signature, what they're going to be known for on campus. So my role was really to support Philip in development, training. So when ChatGPT first came out, there was not a lot of data about jobs. It just came out, if you recall, it was 2.5 years ago. It's like, we're going to just unleash it to the public. So not a lot of information about what was the impact on jobs. So I took it upon myself in connecting with different regional workforce sectors, primarily in Silicon Valley, in the Bay Area, to plug in to see what is the training, the workforce development needs look like. So at that point, we didn't have a lot of time, a lot of information to show the job demands. Fortunately, we started working with the State Chancellor's Office with the Bay Area Regional Workforce Consortium, and then that led to some tools, and I'll show you some data that we picked up, which really informed the design of this program. And in terms of identifying a model to do the curriculum, a model that we use, I stepped back and said, what model is working that does a pathway. So the model of reference for us in building this AI program is our drone technology program. Our drone technology program has non-credit instruction that feeds directly into the credit and is considered a pathway. So I wanted to make sure it was a pathway one for the non-credit to reduce barriers to challenges to equity, et cetera, at the same time to allow that 2-year degree and also the 4-year bachelor's pathway. Year ago, the governor signed the first ever partnership with NVIDIA. NVIDIA, if you don't know, is a multi-trillion-dollar company that does a lot of work for artificial intelligence. The governor, in governor's wisdom, signed the agreement and partnership for 115 community colleges to participate with NVIDIA. So we were cautious when we developed the program, but and when the governor signed the call to action, I was like, this is not something to be cautious about. We need to get moving on this. And so the Bay Area Consortium really made it a point to get community colleges directly involved in the training. So comes January 2025, we have Professor Bell, Professor Howe, Gillespie, and our classified rep, Martin Phillip, go up to NVIDIA and get the first ever training that's being offered by NVIDIA. And I'm so lucky we actually did that because there hasn't been any training since then. So essentially, we were one of 3 colleges that went up to NVIDIA. We hustled when we needed to hustle, and it really paid off because now we're in the queue for doing this. They're not opening it up, their perception, when I talk to folks that know about the training more deeply, is like we need to train people and use a train-to-train model. We have a business to run. We're not, we shared the workforce needs with the governor, and the colleges need to adapt and respond to it. That's essentially, so they opened the window. I'm glad we went through the window, and we were able to get that firsthand experience with NVIDIA. What also led to the program is bringing the program to the regional workforce development group, where CT deans talk about it. Our program has been developed from the ground up. Initially, when ChatGPT came out, lots of programs that were classified as AI were repackaged software development programs. So they weren't necessarily developed with the intent of AI or creating the pathway that we have here from non-credit to credit. So presentation overview. So you heard about the roadmap. I do want to unpack, because part of our mission here is to educate the public and demystify what is artificial intelligence. You throw the word artificial and intelligence, and you start thinking a little bit about, okay, is it as intelligent as I am, or what is this whole intelligence thing? So, and I have a couple thought experiments or kind of examples to walk you through that. And then Philip will talk about the artificial intelligence programs, the learning outcomes, and then I'll talk about some of the labor market data. Philip will talk about the NVIDIA partnership and the industry certifications. Throughout this, you'll see something that says demo, and we'll have Sandy weigh in. So in terms of artificial intelligence, so you heard Sandy. In many cases, if the connection is really perfect, you will not see any latency or hear any latency. It'd be like talking to a person going back and forth. So very conversational, so in some cases, very much like talking to an individual. But there's a lot more going on behind the scenes, and I really want to unpack that and demystify that for you with some of these demos that I'll share. I teach a class in human development at Grossmont College, and we talk about theories of development, theories of intelligence. And one theory that really speaks to the way AI is configured and the way it's operationalized is functionalism. So the whole idea of functionalism is you got a pattern, and you make a prediction based on that pattern. So in this case, the AI has tons and tons of data that you can make inferences on and make a prediction. In this case, if it's a generative AI for text, then it's the next word. If it's generative AI for video, it's the next visual or frame that goes with that. So that's the operational definition of AI as it is rendered in GPT, et cetera. Now, there's a couple criticisms around that. But one theorist or one thought experiment that really supports this idea is a Turing test. Essentially, think about yourself playing chess with 2 individuals. Those 2 agents are behind a wall. You're playing chess. One of the agents is an AI. The other one's the person. If you can't distinguish the AI according to the Turing test, that AI is intelligent, right? So that's a common perception, that if you can't differentiate between a person and the AI, therefore it's has that intelligence level. Now, there's some criticism about that, and that's, and I'll share one final thought experiment. It's with John Searle, a philosopher. He has another thought experiment that goes a little deeper, which is you have two people conversing in Chinese. And so one person is in the box, and the other person's outside, and they're exchanging what sounds like Chinese. If you go above and do a bird's eye view, you see that the person inside the box is pulling out a rule book and trying to figure out how to respond to the person outside. Hence, that's essentially what the AI is here that we're working with. Noam Chomsky, different critics will say it's just mimicry. It's not really, there's no awareness, there's no consciousness. And so, although it appears like there is, so I'm sharing that to really demystify and to really clarify what we're talking about here, because it does appear like it's intelligent and reacting intelligently, but there's a lot more to intelligence once you start thinking more deeply about it. So Philip will talk about the pathways next.
So, as I mentioned, it was really important to me to ensure that if someone is making any commitment to Grossmont, that their time is valuable and really comes with some real outcomes. So we developed both non-credit and credit. On the non-credit, I just want to talk quickly on, so we have this really good drone program, lots of success, and really looking at, if we tried to do a one-size-fits-all, I felt like we were really going to end up with kind of a watered-down, doesn't really serve anybody. So with that in mind, we separated out, if someone doesn't have the budget or doesn't want to commit to a full program, in a single semester they can knock out either getting very technical skills on the developer non-credit certificate, or fundamentals if you just want to become AI literate, if you just want to learn how to use AI in your workspace, if you want to be able to talk about AI. And then on the credit side, starting from an associate's, but then along the way, there's also a certificate of proficiency for just the high demand skills right now. And if you don't do gen eds and you do achievement, which we'll look at later, you can get a certificate of achievement with all the same core classes as the associate's degree. So a wide range of how much time, how much resources do you have to dedicate to Grossmont. We can fulfill your time and really reward you for making a dedication of that with us.
Okay, so to continue on the theme of unpacking AI, I do want to share a quick demo. And I'll use a quick statement here. So for example, how many of you heard of tokens? Okay, so token is what the computer processes, or fragments, they're fragments of text that eventually are processed. So what I want to share with you is what that looks like in terms of the AI. So we developed a little visual here that demonstrates what that looks like. Okay. So in your interface, when you use ChatGPT, we'll do this here. This is just a standard statement. You know, the cat sat on the mat, right? So this is a very low-level, local large language model that's been developed, just housed here on this computer, that surprisingly, at one point was really innovative. It's GPT-2 that's housed here. It's available for anybody to download into a computer. And it has got a lot of data, but it doesn't have the predictive power that you see now in online GPT-4, et cetera, because what was released was something different. So when you enter these words in any AI, it'll generate some tokens. And a token basically is creating a fragment of the sentence you put in. So in some cases, the word "the" might be broken down into T, comma, HE. So it's got to be broken down into a way the computer understands, right? We interface with it with our words, in this case, large language model, but the computer really breaks it down into tokens. And this is how it works for visual, et cetera. And then it breaks it down to embeddings, the math. So many of you talk about math, so you're essentially looking into the brain of the large language model here that I have on this laptop, and with the idea that it's There's a lot of math, a lot of algorithms. So where's that intelligence, right? So what looks like intelligence, really, it's a really strong, large data set that's able to predict and uh, correct for biases, weights, et cetera, in terms of all the data sets. So that's what the value here. And it's got other layers that add into that look for tone, for grammar. So the models themselves are so sophisticated because of all this data, and they're able to eventually get you something that looks like conversational language. All right. Here in this case, this model is not that great. It predicts different output. It doesn't predict the mat, which would be common. But then if you look at, for example, the ChatGPT version, it'll give you something like this. Oops. So Matt, and this is because this model compared to the one that's shared is 1,000 times more powerful, larger than with semi-computer. And it's getting larger and stronger based on all the data that's collected, creating patterns and being able to make predictions, right? So hopefully that kind of demystifies that a little bit more in terms of the data set itself and the use of tokens. With that, I'll turn it over to Philip to talk more about the actual program itself.
Yeah. So based on looking at those hundreds of job postings I mentioned, everything from we want a PhD with 7 years experience to come work for $15 an hour, up to more realistic six-figure jobs as far as AI research, AI development, and then also thinking through the different areas and industries that will be impacted by AI, both people using AI and also people needing to develop and integrate AI. And this is the core classes we have come up with. We also looked at a lot of market research just to see what people would be interested in. I was very happy to see, as someone who minored in cognitive science, to see ethics around AI being pretty top 3, I think, if not the second one. So we worked with the philosophy department to develop an ethics and technology class, which they have also put through curriculum, which will be offered in the fall. And that will span also some of our other degrees. We also have a math class called computational theory, so that even if you aren't necessarily feeling strong in math, we take you through that. We make sure you understand the core concepts needed. And we really walk people through. You either have 0 experience in AI and development, so you'd be taking the Python programming class, and then work your way through AI and cloud, AI and cybersecurity, and then the big topics right now are large language models and generative AI, which is what ChatGPT is blending both of, and a lot of the AI stuff you see lately. And also to kind of give some information on why we're seeing this sudden growth of AI is that generative AI, coupled with all of the knowledge on the internet and all the web scraping that's been done by tech companies for so long, really allowed it to take in a lot of information and kind of do that Chinese translation room experiment over and over to 1,000th level. Similar to if you heard about AlphaGo and other stuff, where you have computers training themselves so they can essentially go through a millennia of learning and start pumping stuff out. And we walk students through how those things function, how to utilize them, how to scale them all the way from my laptop, which I'll show a demo of later, up to like cloud scale. And that's why we have the cloud computing course, because we really wanted to make sure that students get past just the watching a YouTube video, doing a simple little experiment on their laptop, and really seeing the power that can be scaled. The ethics class also, I just want to mention again, it's really important. It meant a lot to me in my career taking the ethics classes I took during my bachelor's and master's, and I'm proud to include that. And then finally, we have 3 electives they choose from in deep learning, natural language processing, and computer vision. These are still, as have been for a long time, the really core fundamental areas of AI. Everything from robotics, earliest AI might be considered United States Postal Service, building a system that can read human handwriting by training it on a lot of human handwriting. And that's how it was able to scale up with our nation growing so much. And that is computer vision, right? That's computer vision. Not so much deep learning. Now it would be, if you want to do it at more of a scale and doing more than addresses. And natural language processing, right? So all those things together. And I'll be going through a demo that kind of combines all those as well. So this is the associate's degree with, if you take gen ed, take the exact same classes, don't do general electives, or sorry, general education, and you can get a certificate of achievement. You can also get this at the same time. Lastly, we wanted to pull out, again, in that focus of different demographics of, hey, I want college credit, I really want to get something to show for my time, and I want the hands-on experience of just more than going to YouTube and watching videos and self-training. So we've pulled out the introductory class, which takes you from 0 to doing AI and machine learning. We have the Python class if you don't have experience coding in Python. And then we ask students to just learn generative AI and large language models. Again, just kind of this is more focused on someone who's in industry and wants to skill up or get started in AI. Similarly, the non-credit for developer. But on the fundamentals class, the fundamentals non-credit certificate of proficiency, this one is really focused on folks who want to be AI literate, want to know how to use AI in their workplace, integrate it, really question, and to some of it, serve the perspective, like my father often talks about in his home rec class or some class he took as a kid where they actually had them dismantle lawnmower engines and put them back together. And that meant that him and his classmates would never get tricked by a mechanic on spending too much and be able to do their own work. And that's really kind of the focus here, is ensuring that folks who maybe don't want to sign up for a degree, they're there for the non-credit, but we can give you enough AI literacy to not be confused by AI, to really know how to use it in your workplace and move forward. And then on the other side, the more intense is the developer AI, or AI developer security proficiency non-credit, where that, again, is focused on people in industry or who already know how to code, and we're really zooming in on the cloud computing, and again, large language models, and getting your feet wet with AI in a really, really supportive and empowering environment. And really hands-on skills labs, all the stuff that you're not going to necessarily get from just watching videos and reading blogs.
So non-credit, it's a big deal because we can scale the non-credit up in ways that you can't for other programs. The other thing, that's free. So for the drone program, we have lots of students that take that class until they're competent. So they might end up taking it 5-7 times. Eventually they're able to, or they come back for industry change. That's the non-credit here for the AI. Being able to go in there, take the class, you don't get a concept, you come back. You can take it as many times as you want. That's the beauty of it. And it's open to, at zero cost, so you don't have to expend your financial aid on this. And be ready to be successful in the credit pathway if you want to go down the road. So again, these stack together. I do want to just quickly ask Sandy, what are some of the projects that will be encountered in the artificial intelligence program? Sandy, can you share what projects will be covered in the artificial intelligence program?
Absolutely. The Artificial Intelligence program at Grossmont includes a wide variety of hands-on projects that let students apply what they learn in real-world ways. For example, in generative AI and large language models courses, students create chatbots, generate images from text using tools like DALL-E, and even train models on custom datasets. In prompt design, they experiment with writing and refining prompts to control how AI responds in tasks like storytelling, summarization, or decision-making. In more advanced classes like deep learning, computer vision, or natural language processing, students build and train models to recognize images, classify text sentiment, or even translate languages. Some use cloud platforms like AWS or Google Cloud to deploy and manage AI systems, which is a big part of the Applied AI in Cloud Computing course. Would you like examples from a specific course?
So again, Sandy is looking at the material that was developed by Professor Bell and restricting itself. And so if you ask it for the weather, it's going to say, I'm sorry, I'm Sandy. I'm restricted in my ability to answer anything beyond the curriculum. So that's the training that's available, the guardrails for Sandy. We'll turn it over back to Professor Bell to talk about the student learning outcomes.
Not to sound like a broken record, but yeah, really spent a lot of time focusing on what are people going to get out of these programs. So we started from student learning outcomes, and really wanted to zoom in on what are the kinds of problems they're going to be solving, what are the skill sets they're going to need. Also, while working on this program, I heard that the NSA had a grant for people wanting to get a cybersecurity PhD, and I found a program that is both cybersecurity and AI PhD, and I enrolled, was accepted in December 26th, and I just finished my first semester in the PhD program. Thank you. It's a lot, but again, just the commitment of if I am asking students to give us their time, I also have some aspirations that hopefully some of our students will look at graduate level education afterwards. To be frank, it's really competitive to get an AI job or a developer job with an associate's or even a bachelor's right now, versus going into graduate level research or getting a master's, I think might be something for our students to look at. And what are the skill sets being looked at in the program I'm in? That's been informing the student learning outcomes. So with that in mind, we started from the student learning outcomes and worked backwards. So really making sure that people on the credit side and the associates walk away with the ability to really articulate which kind of AI platform to use, how to integrate it, what's the scalability, what are the resource costs, what's the ethics involved in the use, such as there's a historical example where they tried to use AI to do parole hearings, but all they did was fill in the last 20 years of parole hearings into the system. They didn't teach it the rules, they didn't teach it any of the actual stuff, so unfortunately that meant that the system had baked in the last 20 years of questionable decisions and unfair rulings, and it just kind of kept repeating that instead of actually ideally ushering in a new equitable or more equitable system. It can't solve the justice system, but stuff like that of what is the possible impact of the thing you're building, what are the privacy concerns, where's the data going. Cybersecurity is also a huge concern with these things, and we want to make sure that those are covered. Hence, we have the AI and cybersecurity class, the cloud class, and a lot of discussions on resources. So for the certificate of proficiency, that's that really tiny one, really more focused, and just like how do you build, how do you use. Less wide as the associates and the certificate of achievement, but really just zooming in on what do you need to know in order to go build these things and utilize them. For the fundamentals certificate and non-credit, as mentioned, this is really around AI literacy for people doing any job anywhere. AI is going to have a pretty wide impact, maybe not quite as much as AI companies would hype, but pretty wide, I would say, across the board. I've seen it among my students. I've seen it in the industry. I have friends that I advise on their startups and entrepreneurship, and I've caught them using ChatGPT to make really important business decisions, and I'm trying to coach them how to not do that. And even in my classes, I've already started integrating where one of the last assignments for the semester will be use AI to answer this question and walk me through what's wrong about its answer and what you catch. Really trying to take away the scarcity around, or the fear of using it, fear of being caught. Personally, I don't really care if they use it. I'm designing my assignments so that sometimes they can, sometimes they can't. But I really want them to learn early and often. You can't trust this to be 100% correct all the time. You really got to double check what's coming out of it, especially because a lot of these things are built on generative AI, which means it's going to try to answer even if it can't. It's going to fill in the blanks even if it doesn't have the right information. And then the developer certificate, non-credit, similar thing, less of the AI literacy and more of the, you already know how to code, you already know how to program, you don't want to commit to the full program, you don't have the time, whatever resources, or you realize you really need to make a change to stay competitive in this market. We're going to give you those quick skills for whatever is most in demand right now. Back to Javier.
Okay, thank you, Philip. So a little factoid around, so UNESCO, World Bank, McKinsey Company recently shared that in the next 5 years, 60% of jobs are going to require some sort of AI literacy. 60% of jobs. And 40 to 50% of the jobs are going to be requiring some sort of AI, or they're going to be automated. It doesn't mean people are losing their jobs, but that's why it's really even more important to have a program like this, to provide AI education to the masses. So again, going back to the pathway, so this really shares the pathway cells from fundamentals to developer to all the way to the associates, and the associates to either a bachelor's degree or something beyond that. So to really get them moving, they don't lose a lot of credit, they don't lose a lot of momentum. The salaries range from an IT cluster, because again, this field is still fairly new in terms of its tracking the labor market information, but from salaries of 60 all the way up to 100 plus, depending on the jobs. Here's a list of some of the jobs related to each of the tracks. So you have, for example, for fundamentals, AI support specialist, you can see the rest of the jobs. In developing this program, as I mentioned, 2.5 years ago, there was not a lot of data. Here before you is the data that was collected the first 6 months after ChatGPT was released. There's a survey that was sent out to all the community colleges and asked individuals areas of interest, because we didn't know how to frame that. So went to all 115 colleges. We had thousands of responses. So one thing that became very clear as a basis for creating the program is that all these components here are how to use AI. Most of them are AI applications. So the user track, being a AI literate user for AI, but then at the same time we have this mission to train the workforce, so we need to create a developer track. So the user track really is in non-credit space, with the development track for developing the systems being the credit space and beyond. So wanted to share that with you. This data shows AI jobs. What you see here is an increase of 10% plus jobs in San Diego over the next couple years. Again, the number is probably even more now because this is a couple years old. So definitely lots of growth. Here are jobs that are impacted by AI. All these jobs will incorporate some sort of artificial intelligence. Again, 60% will require AI literacy. These are some example jobs that have come up in various reports. They're still growing. They're still expected to grow even with AI. And folks who use AI compared to those that don't are going to be more competitive in the job market. So going back to Professor Bell's point about it's like you need to be exposed to it and just be a wise consumer when it comes to the AI. So lots of opportunities there. And also there's been a shift the last couple of years in terms of AI itself being required for degree paths. So before the release of ChatGPT, there was some AI data. As you can see on the left side, not a lot of numbers in for associates. Post ChatGPT release or more the awareness, you have a major shift that the expectation is around the workforce being able to get some of these skills and trainings in our community colleges and institutions. So this slide really says demo. So some of these demos are really showing what students will be able to do. So just kind of reframe that. It's what students can or will be able to do. One example I'd like to share. So really quickly, and then we'll turn it over for Philip to pull up his computer because it's got specialized software there. These are all specialized software computers as well, by the way. The analysis of data itself. So data can be analyzed in structured ways. So you can say if there are whiskers and it's got fur, and then it's a cat. Okay, so that's great for a predictable environment. But with data changing, needing adaptation, that's where you need the AI model to actually be able to actually look and connect certain pieces and do the analysis for you. Philip's going to share a little bit of that when it comes to cybersecurity. But one example that I want to share, I ran some sample data because, as I mentioned, I've taught the human development course at Grossmont College, and so it's like, let me pull some anonymous data out of my Canvas shell. And so with that, if Canvas is our learning management system for learning online classes. And then here's some sample data. This is from a couple years ago. So many traditional models of identifying, for example, fraudulent students, often say like if the person is coming from the same IP address, then maybe there's fraud there. In this case, the AI looks at all kinds of things, submitting the quiz, the logins, the time that they log in terms of doing assignments. So it takes the whole picture, which is not something that me or any instructor can do on their own. They need some sort of support that does this, looks at all the data. And it doesn't make a decision for you. What it does is actually give you some guidance on maybe this student is not engaged. Maybe they are a bot or not a bot, right? So that's one way to look at this. So And before I turn it over to Philip here, there's object detection. So we have cameras that look at different objects, your Ring camera, but when you overlay, for example, a AI over it, then it can really spot spot information that you otherwise couldn't. So with the AI communicating with you and assessing the images, so with generative AI, ChatGPT, it's text-based, but then you have computer vision, as Professor Bell talked about. So that can be really effective in analyzing different frames and images to really give you a sense of what you're actually seeing. So here, typically what you would see here is just a item that says person. Here it's giving you the whole dialogue with the large language model, identifying a lot more. If I turn it your way, or if I put my phone here, it'll start identifying as it'll start identifying the phone. So this is just one example of a project that students can get involved with and really bring to their businesses, the places of business, so they can actually increase efficiencies and really increase the bottom line for their companies if that's their goal. So let me pull you up here, Philip. So, okay.
Does this come out? Oh, is it mounted? There we go. All right. Who wants to see deep learning, computer vision, and large language models and natural language processing all in one project? We do. So I spent the last few weeks building this project as an example for the board. This kind of covers a little bit of everything in the program. This could be a potential final project for one of our students. I'm going to go through it as quickly as possible. I don't think you want to stare at the code. But so we come in, we have Python code. It's pulling in libraries, which is where a lot of this uses both open source. I'm using PyTorch, which is from Meta, which is open source, and actually just recently moved out of Meta and made their own foundation. They're completely separate. So what this is doing, first I built in where it will detect what platform you're on. So a lot of things in AI right now is the portability, is not having it tied to one thing, is that you can run it, you can scale it from, right now it's running on my laptop up to a serious scale. So right now it's taking advantage of the Apple Silicon chip inside to accelerate rather than running on CPU. It could run on a device that has CUDA and NVIDIA. And it looks at the data that's coming in. So what the data that we're looking at is I have various non-malware and malware files that have been converted into image format. So you can see here where even with your own eyes, you might kind of notice like the non-malicious software at the top looks like that, and then using these algorithms to convert it into an image at the bottom, you see where malware looks a little bit different. Now imagine that scaled out to thousands and thousands of examples. The experiment here doesn't get very high accuracy because it's running on my laptop. I only ran it through 5 training rounds, stuff like that. But this is where the computer vision comes in, is some recent research shows where instead of trying to do the very expensive time-consuming malware analysis of what it does and what the code is, few folks notice that if you use what's called a convolutional neural network and convert your whatever data it is into visual representation, it can very quickly start noticing patterns and pulling out things that maybe a human wouldn't think of. So various code, just kind of breaking down the different layers of the neural network. And then once it's set up, I just have it go through 5 training rounds. So here, this is some of the output. And you'll see where we start off at the very first training round, 86% accuracy, validation's only at 0.43. And it gets a little bit better towards the end. It actually achieves 97% accuracy towards the end and about 51%, so slightly better than a coin toss once it's done. But again, this is with only about 800 samples running through 5 training rounds. In a more realistic environment, you would pull in millions of samples, run it through probably like 1,000 training rounds on like a big server. Theoretically, I could let my laptop do it, but probably wouldn't finish in a week. And then other things we'll expect students to do, right, is, okay, you've got the data coming out, and I don't think any of you enjoyed staring at those numbers. Put it in a graph, put it in something that people can understand, right? How do you build a report out of what you've built and make it usable for the rest of your team or your organization? And sorry, the color scheme isn't showing up very well. And again, just to point out that this is not acceptable for PhD or anything in production. didn't run it enough. So the blue line at the top, which you can vaguely see, is the training, and then the orange line is the actual results of that model. So that model has been trained, and that model actually can be moved and run, and the model takes up much less space than all the training. So I can actually copy that model, which has been saved as a local file, and run it on different devices and get those same results. Again, 51% accuracy is not great, but this portability is also something we'll be going through, right? And then putting out reports. So this is kind of PhD research level. This is how you do your reports on these kind of classification reports. So if you're doing a white paper, you would send in this. But if you're doing a board meeting representation to somebody in your organization, you want to make it more palatable. And then finally, and I think it's not working right now, but the last part is taking in whatever malware it detected and then putting that into an LLM and trying to get recommendations. There's a lot of research around this of, okay, I detected something, what do I need to do, right? If you're an office worker, if you're a secretary, if you're an attorney, I used to do some IT consulting for attorneys, not the best cybersecurity practices over there. If they're told there's a virus, they may not know what to do. If they're told there's malware, ransomware, whatever it is. But right now, and especially in cybersecurity, it's incredibly important to act fast. So using LLMs, we can pull in a lot of information and give a recommendation for steps to take to mitigate the problem. And that's pretty much it. So this is what someone would spend 3 months kind of like building out in more detail. But I just wanted to kind of walk you through the journey of what will our students be working on in their second year, or even someone taking one of the certificates.
Okay, I want to be sensitive to time. I know we have a few minutes left. Thank you, Philip. So if you can take on the NVIDIA partnership, what you learned. There you go.
So yeah, NVIDIA started this program where they are offering free educational materials to community college students and faculty. We were invited up. There were 4 of us. We actually represented 25% of the room. The other colleges were a little jealous that we're there. And we got a full day of training and a walkthrough of the program. And we will be integrating those materials into the program. So that means that what would usually be $500 minimum, if not more, per certificate per course, completely free to community college, California community college students. And just to bring everything together, I tried to condense everything we've been talking about into like one kind of view. Basically, this is a representation of your core classes, not counting your gen eds, and the 4 semesters across the 2 years. Halfway through, you'll earn your certificate of proficiency, and then by the end, you'll get your associate's degree and your certificate of achievement. However, along the way, and I tried to kind of signal which of the NVIDIA certifications would go with which course, you can kind of see in that tiny font on the right that by the time you graduate, you'll essentially have 2 certificates from Grossmont and an associate's degree in AI, as well as 8 industry NVIDIA certifications. And you'll be earning those along the way. Maybe some of our students will get lucky enough to get job offers before they complete. Hopefully they complete the program. But really just bringing this in of similar to our cybersecurity program that already exists, that as students are acquiring the skills, they have real representations of the hard work they've done and certifications that they do actually have those skills. Not just, I read a textbook, I did the homework. Industry certified, constantly updated stuff we'll be working on, ensuring every semester that we are bringing in the latest and greatest and ensuring that their skill sets they're getting are still relevant. And this partnership with NVIDIA definitely helps a lot in that way.
Okay, so timeline, you approved the program last month. Some modifications here this month, and then we're looking based, so 2.5 years of the groundwork when it comes to the program, and then bring in the paperwork for it to be reviewed by the curriculum committee and approved by the board. But the next level will be the state approval. We have our ducks in a row, but having our college submit that and respond to any questions with the in my mind, it would be wonderful to offer the non-credit course or the first non-credit course this summer, intensive boot camp, for 4 weeks. But that requires some other background work to be done. But we're ready for that. If that's approved, and we need control numbers, budgets, etc. And so we'll have Sandy wrap up I'll ask her what she's looking forward to come the fall 2025. So, and we'll open it up to questions if you have any questions. Sandy, what are you looking forward to in fall 2025?
Oh, I'm really looking forward to seeing students dive into Grossmont's brand new Applied Artificial Intelligence program. Fall 2025 marks the full launch, and it's exciting because students will finally get to experience everything we've built: real-world AI projects, cutting-edge tools like ChatGPT and Olama, and direct training opportunities through our partnership with NVIDIA. I'm especially excited to see how students grow into roles like AI analysts, data specialists, and cybersecurity technicians. How about you? What are you most curious about for the launch?
Okay, so that concludes our presentations, and we'll open it up to questions if you have any. Thank you.